Hi, welcome to our video series where we feature amazing bars and restaurants who have been able to open and operate through all these COVID regulations. Today we're going to be talking with an amazing bar and restaurant out of downtown San Jose, hear about their experience, the challenges, tips and tricks that they've done, and hear about how they've led the charge with being one of the most strict and best places to go. I'm Nick Wortley, founder here at Overflow. Overflow is a mobile ordering app that lets your patrons order and pay for their drinks at your bar with their phone. Lets your bartenders stay socially distanced and be super efficient. If that's something you want to check out, go to our website at overflowordering.com. Today we're going to be talking with Eric Nielson, who's the owner of SP2 Communal Bar and Restaurant, as well as 55 South. They've got an amazing patio. It's huge. They've got incredible food, incredible cocktails. If you want to check them out, go to sp2sanjose.com. Thank you for joining us. Super awesome to have you here. Really, the first question is, all these regulations come down. Things are going crazy. Things are changing a lot,
Yeah.
You guys opened. I feel like you're one of the bigger places that actually opened. What did you have to do? What was that like?
So restarting a restaurant is a lot more difficult than you think. So we were kind of lucky in the fact that we were doing to go almost from the get. So we shut down before the shelter in place went into effect. And then after about 2.5, 3 weeks, we decided, okay, we're going to do to go food. And so we started there. So implementing that was a little bit more difficult because that restaurant is not built to do to go. It's just our kitchen line is not built for it. The entire restaurant is, it's a large venue. We have a really large patio. So even just walking all the way down the patio to get inside the restaurant it's a feat. There's a big gate on the outside. So it's not a very easy, it's not an easily accessible restaurant in terms of to go. So we started, we already had an account with DoorDash that we had done years before, and that never worked well. So we reactivated it. And then we also we have Toast for our POS. So that enables us to do menus online so people can order online. And so that helped.
Cool.
So we started there. And then immediately, as soon as we opened, there was all kinds of crazy guidelines, and it was a feat. So we basically downloaded all the county information, the CDC information, and the county house guidelines. So I printed it out and kind of went through it with a fine-tooth comb and just started there in terms of our to-go program, just to make sure, we changed things where, the chefs on the line, normally they don't wear gloves. They will wear gloves if they're dealing with oysters, but they usually don't deal with gloves if they're, cutting, vegetables, or if they're, working on the pizza station. And the reason being is that the feel of everything is important. But now everybody wears gloves at all times if they're touching food. And they have to change gloves and wash their hands every 30 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that's just for the kitchen side.
Have there been any dishes that your cooks just pretty much can't do because there's no way to keep it safe, or have you been able to figure all that out?
We changed the menu to make things, when we first started reopening with to-go, because we were shut down for a few weeks, we had to rebuild the menu from scratch because we didn't have any produce, we didn't have any meat or dairy, so we had to reload everything. And so we did a much smaller menu, and then we started to expand. So in the beginning, we only had 6 or 7 dishes. And then after, 3 or 4 days, we added, another item, 2 more items until we got back to where we're at now. But some of the menu items are different. We took a lot of these shared plates that we were doing. We changed those because it's it's really unfortunate for us too that, the name is Communal Bar and Restaurant, SP2 Communal Bar, which, during times of COVID, not ideal. But we've had to change those dishes a little bit. And the food's worked out great. My chef's outstanding. So everything he does, he anything he touches turns to literal food gold. He's amazing. So that part has worked out. Once we shut down, we had a lot of food that was going to go to waste. So instead of wasting it, I had chef come in, and him and I worked and cooked a lot of food and put it into go boxes and called the staff and just had them pick it up one at a time.
Nice.
So at least that way we didn't waste that. A lot of the produce we put into, we actually did grocery kits for the staff. And so then at least that way, especially, the employees that have families and stuff like that, just try to ease some of the financial burden because we just had no idea what it was going to look like. And again, like there's no point in wasting it. So that's what we did in the beginning. Let's see, what else did we do? So to reopen, we did that. And then we started bringing the kitchen guys back one at a time. We started with one line guy and then a dishwasher because, I was dishwashing when I could be there, but I couldn't be there that often because, again, it's COVID. So I was actually at home with my kids because our nanny didn't want to come down because she was scared of COVID. So it's
a whole chain reaction, right? Like they don't want to do it. They don't want to do it. So now you can't be at the restaurant.
Yeah.
So now you have to entrust and make sure the safety precautions are like being followed, even if I'm not there. Like crack the whip, like this is important.
Yeah, it was really difficult. But at the same time, like I think the best part about all this, I think like especially like our team, like they got it, like they understood. Like, and so
that's really cool.
Like they would come in and they would work really hard. I had chef and a line cook cooking and doing all the dishes, all day. So they would come in early and prep and then cook all day and then clean. My managers, our management staff, we did actually, so we furloughed all of our hourly employees and then all of our salaried employees we kept on the whole time. So even when we were shut down, we were discussing furloughing them or not. And we just decided that, we had enough reserves in the bank that we could keep them on for a while. And we just decided that was the better move then, which turned out to be the smart play because when we did do to go, I already had, I had a full team that was willing and wanted to come back to work, so we have 6 managers. So they all came back immediately. And that worked really well. So then they could cover the shifts and they immediately jumped in and was doing dishes. And then the bigger advantage too is when we could start doing to-go cocktails.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So talk about that. California changed that rule, which has always been a thing, right? You walk outside and the bouncers are like, get back inside. You cannot take this onto the sidewalk or we're going to lose our license or they're just going to shut everything down. Now California is saying, no, you can do to-go cocktails. So what does that look like? You're not just giving them a solo cup and letting them walk out.
No. So when to-go cocktails came out, we decided that we wanted to do it. But everything I do, I just take a little bit of time. So I'm like, well, let's see how it works out for everybody for a week and see how those regulations are going down. And so because of that, I was kind of looking around and just seeing what everybody's doing. And everybody was doing a lot of mason jars. So they put the cocktails into a mason jar, seal the mason jar, and give it. It has to be a closed container. Right. So it doesn't have to be sealed or anything like that, but it has to be
It's not airtight with the little popper. It just has to be like physically closed.
Yeah. And so, because the other tricky part is like California they don't allow to-go cocktails. The governor straight up said that they will not be enforcing that rule. They told ABC there's no absolutely, they were given direct guidance from the governor not to enforce and basically any of those rules. The only rules that they're watching right now is that there has to be food served with alcohol. So even to-go drinks, you have to order food with it, which makes no sense because you can go to the liquor store and buy a bottle of liquor. But as long as they're letting
you can do it at least,
stuff,
right?
that was my thing. And so reopening, where was I? So we're talking about we started with the to-go program, changed the food menu, changed a lot of guidelines. So there's strict guidelines now where if you're in the restaurant, you have to have a mask on.
And is that for patrons or employees or both? Like, how does the whole walking to your table, walking to the bathroom work for patrons?
So if anybody walks into the restaurant, including the guys doing the pickups for DoorDash and to-go food, they have to have a mask on.
Nice.
Any patrons that are in the restaurant and they're going to the bathroom, they don't have to wear their mask at the table, but to walk around the patio or to walk inside, they have to have a mask on. There's just a lot of little details that it's difficult. So like, for example, we're talking about my door hosts. We still ID people because we're open later. We're open till on Fridays and Saturdays, we're open till midnight. Whereas most people are closing because we have a private patio, so we can be open and serving till, I guess 2 a.m, but we just close everything at midnight. But so even like the door hosts, when it's, later and people are coming in, like when they check IDs, they're not, the hard part with door guys is they want to hold the ID and get a feel for it.
You got to put it in the light, like check it.
And now they can't, like, I just told them, like, you guys can't touch the IDs. And they're like, what? And I'm like, you can't like you can't be touching everybody's ID and then handing it back and then touching the next. I mean, you literally have to have them hold it up to your face and just look at it. And like, if there's a question about it, then just ask that guest to stay to the side, let everybody else in, whoever, for their table, and then check the ID again. And like, if you need to do it that way, then you can. And then of course the next protocol is now you immediately we have, hand sanitizer stations throughout the restaurant, like I think like 10 or 15 of them. So like immediately you have to get hand sanitizer if you touch anything, and then you have to go inside and actually wash your hands as well. And so
because hand sanitizer is antibacterial technically, but these are viruses, so you like have to physically wipe them off of your hand. So that's why they keep saying like sanitizer is great, but if you can get it wet with a paper towel and throw it in the trash, that's the best thing all around.
Yeah. Yeah, it's they said that hand washing is 1,000 times better, and you have to wash your hands the right way. So that's the other thing too, is that when we were reopening, we had to do 3 separate or 4 separate. We did 3 separate trainings for the staff. So the kitchen got their training, and then we did an entire front of house training, and then I did a separate bar staff training on the protocols and this kind of thing. And the first thing I'm like, all right, you guys got to learn how to wash your hands.
Right?
Yeah, and they looked at me like I was crazy, and I'm like, I'm not kidding. Like, we're going to go over how to wash your hands, and you're going to do this, and you're going to get, like I was just going through it. Like, you have to scrub your hands, like little things. Like, you actually have to like scrub, your thumbs. You have to actually do your wrists. Like, you have to get, the front. And they're like, oh, and like one of my guys is giving me trash. He's like, really, Eric, you're going to teach me how to wash my hands? I'm like, if I tell you once and I show it to you, I know that you know it. So now I don't have to worry about it again. Versus if we get 3 months into this and, somebody doesn't know how to wash their hands or whatever, like there's no excuse. Like I want to get it all done now so that there's no question.
Yeah. It's the fundamentals. It's like in sports, right? So you always practice the fundamentals. Who cares about strategy if you don't know how to do the fundamentals? And washing your hands properly, it's kind of funny that we all are, 30, 40 years old and don't know how to wash our hands, but I wasn't taught technically. I see this now and I'm like, okay. I've been missing that spot for years because who cares? But now it's such a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. And my big thing too is that, when I was, have you ever read John Wooden's books? The basketball coach from, so one of the things that he talks about too, is that the very first day of class, or the very first day of practice, for UCLA basketball, is he would bring everybody in and teach them how to put their socks on and tie their shoes.
I have heard that story. Yeah.
And everybody looked at him like he was crazy. He's like, no, he's like, because, and this is key for them too, right? Like it's details matter. And if you get 3 months into the season and you're not tying your shoes correctly, you're not doing anything incorrectly, and you get a big blister on your foot and you miss a key vital game because your foot is messed up. Like,
right.
You can't jeopardize that over not something as simple as just tying your shoes. So again, the details, and everything are important, especially for the restaurant. Details are, that's what makes or breaks a good restaurant is, if everybody's paying attention to the details and they're getting everything done correctly, that's that you can feel it, you can see it. And that's the key. So, I mean, there's just a lot of details that we're following that are weird. So like all the tables are spaced 6 feet out. There's actually, we put a bottle of hand sanitizer on every table. Guests have to wear masks. The employees have to wear masks. The employees have to wear gloves it's a little bit difficult on the bartenders because rubber gloves and wet tins when they're shaking cocktails is not fun.
Oh gosh.
And everything just slows down, but they're doing the best they can. And there's a lot of weird guidelines. So like, even it's strange to be in a restaurant environment and your food runner, normally they'll load up, plates and they'll go out and they'll just go drop plates at whatever table for their food. You can't do that now. So the food runner can only go to one table at a time and drop food. They have to come back in, wash their hands, and then they can take the next food order out. There's like just weird guidelines. So we have for wine, if they order a bottle of wine, the servers don't open or pour the bottle of wine anymore. So what we'll do is we sanitize the wine opener, put it in a glass, seal the glass with saran wrap so it's sterilized, and then we take that out with the full bottle of wine, leave it at their table and glasses, but they're not allowed to pour anymore. For water, like they just drop off full bottles of water and glasses, and we're not allowed to actually fill individual glasses anymore. It's literally like zero contact. So in between contact, less touch points. So even like food on the line, the kitchen line, they can't hand anybody a dish. They actually have to put it down on the pass, and then the food runner picks it up from the pass. There's just lots of little things like that just to minimize. Our dishwasher wears a mask, and then they also wear a face shield. Because the dishwasher can spray particulate. So then because of that, like those are the little kind of weird things that there's just a lot of those guidelines. We have, stickers on where people can walk to the bathrooms.
Right.
And we have like a specific workflow area for our employees it's like a racetrack. They come in on the right side and then they have to go around and leave on the right side. So it looks like an oval. There's just lots of weird things.
That's fantastic. I love this. So you talked about, sort of the flow that people do. Does that affect like people in line, like your patrons in line, and how they kind of flow about the restaurant?
Yeah. So when they come in for their reservation, like we have to keep them spaced out as well. So you can't have tables close to each other. Like all those people have to be 6 feet apart. So it's a little difficult. So we have, even the host station has a big plexi shield in front of the host. So that way, there can't be, nothing will get sprayed on their face, or if people are talking, I guess, which is, they're still wearing masks and the guests are supposed to be wearing masks. So, but yeah.
Still more layers, more layers of protection all the way through.
Yeah. County guidelines state that anybody that wants plastic, you can get plastic. So that means like, if you don't want your food on our standard, ceramic plates, our nice dishware, and you want it in like plastic to-go containers, because then that way that nobody else touched it and it just gets thrown away, we have to offer that. Same thing with cocktails. Cocktails and beer and everything, they have to be offered in plasticware as well.
As an option. So you're like doubling the dishes that you have in the storage, or is this kind of like your normal stock? Or are you actually going out and buying solo cups like crazy?
No, we had to buy plastic everything, because we don't normally have any of that. The only plastic cutlery that we have was for the to-go. So we had that, but we didn't have plastic or disposable plates. We didn't have disposable glasses. So we had to go purchase all of that.
Cool. Well, that's good to know for the patrons, that if that's a thing you really want to be careful about, then you can ask for plastic. And that's really cool.
People are worried about it. And we had really good reviews as soon as we opened, where everybody was like, wow, they're really following all these guidelines. Because I was worried that we would get, a lot of pushback, that people would be like really uncomfortable with, the fact that they have to wear a mask if they're walking around, even if they're just walking to the bathroom. And I'm like, but it is what it is. But we got a lot of really good Google and Yelp reviews saying like, hey, these guys are actually doing it right. Everything is spaced apart. We don't feel crowded. And so the community in general has been, the feedback's been fantastic about that part. It is a little bit difficult late at night when it doesn't look full and everybody's like, hey, can we come in? We just wanted a quick bite to eat and a quick drink. And it's like, we're at capacity. I'm sorry. And so we've been dealing with a lot of that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Oh, we were talking about to-go cocktails too. Like our to-go cocktails, we do them in pouches. So I do them in sealed pouches, and we just have our labels that are stickers on them. So that was cool too.
And so are you still doing to-go? If you can't get a reservation, you can still order online.
Absolutely.
So how did like your bouncing change? Because your bouncers are usually like break up fights, don't let people be stupid. Are they now the ones enforcing the masks?
Yeah. So we actually have a door host. We call them door hosts. So the door host is at the front gate and lets everybody know what the regulations are. We have it all printed out, but I mean, people aren't going to sit there and read these huge. Like they don't care.
Yeah, it's so much.
It is so much. It's crazy. So the biggest
thing
that
checklists are 6 pages long.
Yeah, I mean the latest county checklist. So we were talking earlier about like changing guidelines. The county's changed guidelines since we opened for outdoor dining. They've changed the guidelines 3 times. And so like the first time it was like 7 or 8 pages of documents. The next time it added a couple more and they're slightly different. And then this most recent time, it actually is a DocuSign document that you have to go to the website, fill it out and sign the DocuSign online before they will actually send you the PDF. And then from the PDF, you have to print it and then everything has to be displayed in the windows. They changed it one more time, actually. They went from a black check mark to now it's a green check mark. And so that's another thing that they do. This one's smart on them because then that way it's a very quick representation of they can walk by and if they see the green check mark, then they know that that's the latest version.
That's being displayed almost, is that ABC coming by?
No,
that's
the county. That's county
okay.
health. Mm-hmm.
So they're walking by and they just see green version and they're like, okay, you're on this week's one. Like it's your license plate registration color.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
So, but yeah, that latest one, the DocuSign one, that one took me a long time to actually fill out online. Like it wasn't, the other ones, it was pretty easy. I just printed it out and I just filled out the form real quick. But this one was like, there were some like a lot more intense questions, so that you have to list out, your, what you're doing and how you're doing certain things. So that one took a lot more time.
After having gone through that, if another bar owner who maybe hasn't gone around to it, or they're just struggling because they're trying to keep up with all this stuff, is there any tips and tricks you have for that process to get, make the government happy and get everything in order? Any resources that you'd be like, go do this, it helped us?
Yeah, in terms of the county stuff, for that paperwork, there's you just have to sit there and just mow through all the questions. And again, I've done it 4 times, so it becomes easier because, a lot of the questions are the same. So it's like, yep, I know this one, I know this one. So that's the easier part of it. But if you haven't done it before, just plan on, it's going to take some time, and it's just, it's necessary. So I did find back in April or May, there's a restaurant group out of Hong Kong called the Black Sheep Group. So they posted online. There's a PDF that you can download on their reopening guidelines, or their reopening handbook. That one was really helpful. It was a really good starting guide. And then there's a couple more. So there's a bar out of, they have multiple locations, but there's a bar called Deaf and Company. So they put out their own handbook it's supposed to be for their employees, but it's really in depth. So they published it and they put it online so that you could download it, that anybody could, just again to help. But the best one that I found was the Think Group through Jose Andres. So Jose Andres, his manual was it's a really, really thick, dense, and it just he lays everything out very simply. So even that group has done all the legwork in terms of there's protocols on how they receive product. So there's, in their restaurants, there's literally a specific area that they've taped off that you can go, that when purveyors come and drop off food or beverage or whatever, but it has to go, they go through this door, they drop it off here. The person receiving it has to obviously counts everything and matches the invoice, but they're not, just small details, like they're not allowed to use the pen that the delivery guy has. They have to use their own pen.
Smart.
Yeah. And, masks the whole time. That book is fantastic. Yeah, that one definitely, anybody looking to open anything, that one's the one you absolutely have to download and read through it. And it makes it it lays everything out. I think that's the good part, especially about, the restaurant community in general, is that, we share a lot of things like information, and that's kind of been key, because with all of that, it really helps.
And that's what we're trying to do. We just want another way to get the information out. You've done it. You know what you're doing. You got the information up the chain. If they happen to not know that, let's get those amazing checklists and guidelines to people.
Right.
So one of the things I wanted to touch on, because you talked about the staff, and that's really a big thing, right? Is everybody is struggling with, well, if I shut down my business for 6 months, myself, my business, and all my people lose their jobs and we're bankrupt and whatever. You kind of pull this middle ground where you're able to hold on to some people, have them around. Now that you're reopening, are you bringing your hourly people back on? How do they feel about that? Are they feeling safe? Or are people kind of is a challenge, right? To convince them that it's safe.
In the beginning, it was a lot harder than it is now. I still have a couple employees that don't want to come back. One of them he lives with his parents, and his mom's diabetic and his dad has some other health condition. So he's literally been stuck in his house for 6 months. And he's like,
oh my gosh,
not
talking bad on him at all. Take care of your family. Keep them safe.
He's not worried about catching himself. He's worried that if he goes out and he doesn't, he comes home, that they won't make it. So it's like, I applaud that. If you're going to sacrifice yourself for your parents, absolutely. I think that, that's just a good-hearted thing to do.
Now you're open. You have the patio open because you're doing patio seating now, right? Which is because San Jose is in purple.
Yeah, we can only do outdoor dining right now.
And that's 50% capacity, if I'm remembering correctly. But does that mean capacity of what you used to be able to totally hold, or the patio can only do 50%?
It's 50% of the capacity of the patio. So there's a capacity number for the patio, and there's a capacity number for multiple rooms inside SP2. We have a back private room, and there's a capacity for that. So, but it's literally 50% of your our patio capacity. But I mean, we don't even get close to approaching that number. I think the patio capacity is 200 or 150, something like that. Yeah, I think it's like 150 or 175. It's slightly under 200. But having to keep the table 6 feet socially distanced, 6 feet apart, because of that, we can actually only seat about, I think it's 52 is our cap.
Okay.
So we can only seat 52 diners, which at a time. So and for our restaurant that's huge, like it's painful. Like it's just, I mean, we are sold out every night with all the tables. We do at least 1.5 turns. And even that, like if we have an outstanding week in sales, like then I don't basically lose any money.
Gosh, that's so tough.
Yeah.
Because your capacity used to be like 400 total?
Oh, I think it's 500.
So we're talking at the end of the day, we're talking 10%. Have you been able to pull off any cost cutting or any way to try to make those 50 people like help your business? Are there other things you're like, well, we're saving money on air conditioning, so stuff like that?
Yeah. So our power bill has been less. But as soon as COVID really kicked in, I called all my vendors and I'm like, hey, is there anything that we can work out so I mean, like our dishwashers are leased. So I called them. I'm like, can you guys, work something out for me? And so they discounted, that and like just weird things that you don't think of, like our CO2 tanks. Our CO2 tanks are leased. So then that way we just, the service comes, they drop off new ones. We put a deposit on them and then they pick up the empty ones. Well, I was like, well, there's nothing we can do. Like we have all these CO2 tanks, like I can't use them. And the company was like, hey, Eric, don't worry about it. Just hold on to them. Like we're not going to pick up the empties right now because they don't have space. They don't have space to pick up everybody's empties. So they're like, and they were like, don't worry, we're not going to charge you. They still aren't charging us for the lease fee or whatever. It's like $8 a month per tank. And so like, little things like that. I called all the vendors and asked, our internet provider, gave us like 20% off for 3 months, all those kind of things. Like I just went down the list of all my, AP and I'm like, okay, well, these are the people that we spend money on. I just called all of them to see if there's anything we could do. Some of them, there's nothing, but any little bit helps.
So on the marketing side, right? Because they're all social media, things are crazy and everyone kind of has like a different understanding about what they can and cannot do, at least as a patron, right? Where can I go? What places have patios? Have you been able to kind of get the word out that, look, we're open, we have a patio, and we are probably one of the more strict people about the safety regulations?
Yeah, we did a video just to kind of highlight some of the safety stuff that we're doing. I'm showing like all the employees in masks, rubber gloves when they're, making cocktails or on the line. And we didn't do like a voiceover. That was like my secondary thing. But we didn't want to like kind of hit people over the head with it, but we make it very, very, it's very apparent because there's rules everywhere. And so like everybody knows, like when they walk in, like they can tell, like there's no question. There's a big, huge sign at the front that has all kinds of details, especially that you have to wear a mask. And there's just a lot. So we posted a video on Instagram and Facebook. We took pictures and I think my social media guy, director took them off, but we had pictures of like all the things that we did on Instagram. So then that way people could see it. And cause I really wanted to get across the point too, that we were different, that we're not going to be, sacrificing people's safety, that we're doing everything, to the letter. And we're just, we're trying as hard as we can to keep everybody, safe, not only our patrons, but especially my team, like that's my biggest concern. So, like it's a struggle.
Well, that's amazing. Hearing that last part is so cool that you are focusing on your team and keep them safe first. And then you can serve customers and you can give someone a great time while being safe. That just about wraps it up. Thank you again very much for all this amazing information. Can't wait to get this out there and post all the links that you've been sharing. Like I said, if anybody wants to check out SP2 or 55 South, go down there, downtown San Jose. Amazing.
If anybody has any questions, feel free, they can, the best way to get a hold of me is probably email. It's like, we have a couple, but the best one is info@sp2 San Jose. If they have any questions, any other operators like want to know how we did anything or what I think about anything, like I'm more than open, just shout out, let me know.
Awesome. Appreciate that. Well, thank you once again. Good luck with everything. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it.
All right, well, that was some really awesome information. Love those tips and tricks. All the links are going to be down in the description to the checklist, the PDFs, and the articles that Eric was talking about. Check them out if that's stuff you're interested in. If you want to check out SB2, go to their website, go visit them in person. If you want to email me, you can reach me at nick@overflowordering.com or go to our website. And we'll see you next time with even more interviews and more information. Have a great day. Stay safe.